Sup? Duh. Right.
This happened in June of 2020, back when the pandemic was in full swing. Like everyone else, I was spending a lot of time inside. I wanted to get out.
I would never understand. At least in Georgia, in like the Atlanta area, I would never understand when that pandemic happened why we had a curfew. I never understood that. I would never understand that.
Idea of going camping. 6 of us planned to go.
Camping?
We found a really nice looking spot on Google Maps that was alongside a lake. It was 5 hours away. We decided to take 2 cars since we couldn't comfortably fit all of us with all of our stuff in just one. In the first car was me, my sister's friend Hannah, and a guy Hannah brought named Jack, who I didn't really know if it was her boyfriend, just a friend. I didn't know and I didn't ask. The second car had my cousin and her husband Josh. We packed up the cars and started making the long journey through the mountains around 3 a.m. so we could get to the spot early that morning. The drive started out normal, but about 2 hours into it, Jack started complaining about how sick he was starting to feel. Which was fair, the roads were windy. I asked him if he wanted me to pull over, and he said not yet. Jack was sitting in the backseat with Hannah. I kept...
Alright now. Alright. I asked you once. I'm not going to ask you again. Do you need to pull over? No? You sure? Because if we throw in my shit, I'm beating your ass.
Glancing up at him through the rearview mirror to see how he was doing. The last thing I wanted was a pool of vomit all over my back seat.
I'm saying.
As I looked, I started to notice him acting really suspicious all of a sudden. He had his hand in his backpack and a grin on his face. He started asking really weird questions. He asked me if my car doors were locked.
What?
I replied saying they were, that they automatically lock when the car goes into drive, like pretty much every car does these days. My sister and I exchanged weird looks with each other. Eventually, he told me he was going to throw up. I offered to pull to the side of the highway, but he insisted I take this dirt road that he somehow knew was coming up. I called my cousin in the other car behind us to tell her what we were doing. Jack proceeded to lead us down a dirt road that barely had enough room for our cars to fit through the trees. Multiple times I asked him if this was good, but each time he told me to keep going.
Sir, you're just throwing me up. Unless there's a specific hole, a specific area for you to throw up at, just throw up anywhere. Anywhere. Fine.
I shot multiple concerned looks towards my sister. Finally, Jack told us to stop. He got out of the car and ran into the woods, disappearing almost immediately. We couldn't see anything, only what was in front of us lit by our headlights. 2 minutes went by. 3 minutes. 5 minutes.
Again, you're just throwing up. Why are you going 800 feet in the woods?
10 minutes. Nothing. Suddenly, 3 men came out from the trees on our left.
God damn.
They were wearing those masks from the Purge movies. It was dark, so I couldn't tell, but it looked like they were holding weapons. I laid on the horn and started driving forward where I would have enough room to turn around. My cousin in the car behind us did the same. As we were driving off, I caught another look at the men. They were just standing there, watching us. We made it about 100 feet when I noticed something on the road in front of us. It was a spike strip. I quickly got out of the car and threw it off the road into the forest. I got back in, looked in my rearview mirror, and now saw the men full-on sprinting towards us. I put the pedal on the floor, and we made it back to the highway minutes later. I got a call from my cousin who sounded frantic, asking who those men were. I told her we had no idea, but that Jack never came back from out of the woods. Hannah later found out she got a text from him. It was 2 words, F you. We started questioning Hannah how she knew Jack, because, like I said, I didn't know if it was her boyfriend, friend, or what. She said she had met him on Tinder a couple weeks back.
Hannah, get out. Get the clock out, Hannah. Hannah, get your clutch ass, clock ass out of here. You got it. What's up? Oh. Clock?
We went through his profile and saw immediate red flags. This guy was trying to lead us into the woods to possibly kill us. My sister cut ties with Hannah not long after this. We don't know if she ever talked to Jack again, but for her sake, I hope she didn't. We ended up canceling that whole trip.
So now I gotta put all my shit back, hang it up.
Let me start by saying I've always really enjoyed road trips. I'll sometimes take them just for fun, listening to music and getting lost.
What?
It's usually just over the weekend or so. I go with my dog Zeke and usually spend the night in a cheap motel if it...
Getting lost? You lost me with that. Getting lost. Alright.
...the being a multiple day thing. A few nights ago, I was taking another one. On my way back, I'd left later than I usually would. I started nodding off and realized I wouldn't make it to the next town, much less my house. The road I was on was surrounded by a dense forest, so when I found a clearing in the trees, I pulled off the highway onto the dirt. I was planning on sleeping in my car, but I honestly didn't know if it was legal or not, so I continued driving through the trees until I couldn't see the road anymore. I let Zeke out to do his business and reclined my seat all the way back. When he got back inside, I closed and locked the doors. To describe where I had parked, it was opposite a small cabin, but not directly in front of it. And again, there were plenty of trees, so I didn't feel like I was intruding on the owners in any way. Plus, at least from what I could see, it looked abandoned anyway, so I'm not sure anyone even owned it. After a few minutes, I started drifting off. I must have been sleeping for at least a few hours, when I woke up to Zeke softly growling under his breath. I sat there listening, trying to understand what he was hearing. Just then, I began hearing footsteps coming from outside the car. This was followed by a long, high-pitched scratching sound. Zeke started going crazy, barking non-stop. I turned on my headlights and saw a very tall, middle-aged man dragging what I thought was a key around the perimeter of my car. He walked very slowly. I didn't know if he could see me, but it felt like he didn't take his eyes off of me the entire time. He had this malicious grin on his face. Horrified, I adjusted my seat back upright and started the car ready to gun it. But he had made his way to my front bumper. All other sides of my car were surrounded by trees. The only way out of there was through him. I yelled out and laid on the horn, Zeke still aggressively barking. That's when I saw that he was holding a butcher's knife. He started walking to my driver's side door, giving me an opening. I took it and started driving back towards the highway. I drove home without stopping. I got out to check the damage, and my paintwork was completely ruined. I don't know if that guy was trying to teach me a lesson for parking on his property, or if he even owned the property, I don't know. I don't plan on ever sleeping in my car again, at least not in a remote area.
That was...
When I was a senior in high school, me and a couple buddies used to drive out to a cemetery to do some late-night ghost hunting and...
Yeah, that is crazy, Toby. Is it Toby or Adam? That is crazy. That's crazy as hell.
Mess around. We lived near a small town in Vermont, so there wasn't much else to do. We'd walk around and take photos and videos, but never captured anything unordinary. If you haven't been to Vermont before, most of the roads are very long and windy. We live deep in the middle of the woods, where there are no streetlights, and houses are like a mile or two apart from each other.
God damn.
The road to the cemetery itself is probably about a 20 to 25 mile two-lane road, with just a few old-looking run-down houses. The atmosphere alone is already creepy enough, even without the cemetery. Anyway, my two friends and I were on this one trip up there around 2 in the morning. It took a good 30 minutes to get there. We were about halfway when this car comes up behind us out of nowhere and starts riding dangerously close to us, like to the extent that I couldn't even see its headlights. We couldn't make out the car or anyone inside of it, but we slowed down, assuming it's a state trooper or something. They slowed down too, keeping almost the exact same distance. I sped up again. Still, they kept the same distance. That's when they turned off their headlights. Now, remind you, there are no streetlights on this road. It's pitch black. I get up to about 20 or 25 over the speed limit, and finally we start to gain some distance. At this point, we think we lost him, when about a minute later, his headlights come back on, and he's right behind us again. Then his headlights go out.
What?
About 20 seconds, they come back on, and he's directly behind
Man, boy, you better floor that shit.
us again. He does this about 3 or 4 times. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just some idiot driver in a hurry.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah?
Finally, as we near the exit for the cemetery, the car starts to let off. We turned into the cemetery, parked, and got out to start walking around.
Wow.
We were walking for maybe a minute when
Y'all
instead
got out of that interaction? That cuck-ass situation y'all was just in. You gonna get out?
headlights pulled up right behind our car and stopped. Now, mind you, it's 2 a.m. No one else should have been out here. The three of us each ducked down behind a headstone and watched. 2 masked men got out of their vehicle, both with some type of blunt object in their hands. My heart sank. If we had to run, I don't know how we would have in the dark forest with the little light we had. I could feel my heart racing inside my chest as we all looked at each other with terrified expressions. The 2 men walked up to our parked car and started looking inside the windows with flashlights. They then began trying to break into the car by tampering with the driver's side door's lock. They routinely looked up and checked their surroundings. After a few minutes, they seemed to have given up and started smashing at the door's window. It shattered after 2 or 3 good hits. One of the men got inside and started trying to hotwire the car. The car wasn't the newest by any means. It definitely was possible to hotwire the thing. I sat there, praying they wouldn't be able to. It must have been 20 minutes when they gave up. They took everything out of the car, put it in their car, and drove off. Before getting out of our hiding spots, we called the police. When they arrived is when we finally revealed ourselves. We lost hundreds of dollars worth of camera gear that night. One of my buddies lost his whole camera, while the rest of us all lost things like tripods, camera lenses, and other gear. The cops took all of our statements and got photos of the car's broken window. One of the officers told us how common it actually is for people to get victimized and have their cars stolen by force on these empty highways during these hours.
There should have been a sign that said literally what the cop just said. There should have been a sign all over the roads. Road trips have the potential of being great with your friends or family, or even by yourself. But even with the road, just like with house parties and other gatherings. With road trips, I need to know exactly who's coming with us. Exactly. And if I don't know you like that, you're not getting in the car. Because best believe we take in multiple cars. Yeah. Because that's Hannah, man. And see, you miss me with the get over on this dirt road and drive for a couple of miles just so I can throw up. Are you serious? If it's really that serious, stick your head up. I'll drive real slow. I'll stick your head out the window, throw up like that. Cause that Hannah was out to get somebody. Just saying. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy, my family.